Right guys, the chassis has arrived. Here she is. Let's get this off the easy way. 3, 2, 1. Boom! And there we go. The new chassis is in Dad's garage. Look at it. Look how shiny it is. Oh yes, this is looking nice. And down here, we've got the new bulkhead as well, in all its beauty, all its glory. And I've gone for a shielder. A shielder bulkhead and a shielder chassis. Yes, and I've even got my main man here, Tony, who's come all the way from Northern Ireland, from Shielder HQ, to drop these bad boys off for me. Tony, thank you very much, mate.
No problem at all.
Absolutely amazing. Look at them.
To be here.
So this is the 110 shielder chassis, and I've gone for the one that has these plates here. So Tony, tell me about these plates here, because I've never seen this any of the chassis manufacturers, so pretty quirky.
So you chose them plates because, well, you have a 200 TDI engine at the minute, but you plan to maybe upgrade in the future. So it means that you'll not be welding on to your original chassis, so you'll not be affecting the galvanizing. Yeah. So you'll just be able to bolt on and off basically whenever you're swapping the engine.
So the beauty with these is rather than having fixed engine mounts, you can bolt this plate off and put a new plate on and weld whatever engine mounts you want for whatever engine you put in.
Onto the plate, yeah.
Perfect. So you might have let something slip there that I might potentially be thinking about an engine conversion in a future video, but shh, we'll pretend you didn't hear that. So yeah, so that was the method in the madness for these engine mounted version rather than a fixed mount. So we're really, really pleased with that. And we've got the rope down here that goes into the back of the rear cross member.
It'll make your life a wee bit easier.
Yeah, so that's to help feed the wire through the centre, isn't it?
Feed your wiring through, yeah.
Because over here on this one, we've got this horrible, shoddy, dirty wire, so I'm definitely going to have to replace that, Tony, so that'll help me out quite a bit.
Definitely.
And then the bulkhead down here, so one of the reasons I went for both the shielder chassis and the bulkhead was not just that actually the price was fantastic, so it's going to save me a little bit more money for other things like suspension, which we're going to need to pair this up with the new refurbished axles, but the bulkhead is a single skin. So
the bulkhead's basically made from single skin. It's made from, the footwells are a wee bit thicker, so they are made from 1.5mm steel. So basically whenever you galvanise it, you're galvanising both flares. Right. So if it was double skinned and you galvanised it, it'll just rush from the inside out, and
that's one of the main problems with the originals is the water and moisture you got in between the skins, and then
go in between, and then the rust from inside out basically. So that'll save you that.
So we're not going to have any problems with this rusting from the inside out, which is nice. And this shielder chassis is made from 2.5mm thick steel. Is that right, Tony?
Yep, that's right.
So that's a little bit thicker than the original, which is like 2mm, but it's not overkill, is it? So it's not going to add too much extra weight.
Yeah. No, and other key features are chassis, spring hangers, the outriggers, things like that. They're pressed out, so they're not welded. So they're pressed out like the original.
Oh, okay.
So they are.
So is that new tooling and stuff you've had to get to?
Yeah, we have invested in tooling.
Because a lot of them are welded here, like they're welded pieces, aren't they?
Yeah, ours is all pressed out, like the original.
And if I come out with the original one over here, I'd love to show you the pressing, but it's covered in absolute minging crud. But yeah, so this original one would be pressed out.
Would be.
Yeah, rather than like a welded piece there and there.
Yeah.
And that's what Sheila's got on theirs now. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait to get working on this bad boy. But there is lots to do, but it's going to be fun stuff. So this is going to take a lot of work, and I've got a lot of jobs to do. And Tony has got a lot more deliveries to do, as you can see on the back of the truck. So I'm going to say thank you very much to Tony, especially coming down to Dad's garage to drop off my new chassis and bulkhead. Tony's going to get on the road to Sheffield now, and we're going to get cracking on. And here we go, guys. The shielder chassis and bulkhead, looking nice. I couldn't resist myself. I had to make them both together, so I've just temporarily shoved in a bolt down here. I know it's the wrong way around, but I just want to see how it fits, and it is nice. Look at it. I am absolutely buzzing. I didn't think we'd ever get to this point, but it looks fantastic. So I have had a little look around just to familiarise myself with various different parts. I've put on these stand support things for the rear tub, and I've also put on this little bracket thing here, and then these things here too from YRM, which again support the tub, and then brace basically the tub to the back of whatever that is. And looking around, there's loads of holes all over for different stuff. I'm assuming all these things here are for like your fuel lines and your brake lines. So all the holes are there to clip everything in. So that is nice. But I am really, really pleased, guys. Look at it. Just wait till that's all painted and we've got all the new gubbins in there and a shiny engine in the middle. But again, just coming around the back, I noticed these things here, these are proper beefy and heavy duty compared to the OEM ones that are just these little thin flimbly things. Flimbly, is that a word? Flimbly? Compared to these little flimsy things here on the OEM one, much beefier. Now obviously I'm under no illusion that this isn't going to take a little bit of fettling here and there. There'll obviously always be the odd bolt hole or screw hole missing somewhere, or the odd bit of galvanizing that needs screwing out a little bit where it's just filled up. But so far, guys, I am extremely happy. So I will leave a link in the description down below for Shielder if you want to check those guys out and see how much you can get a chassis and bulkhead for. It's pretty reasonably priced and will leave you a little bit extra cash for other things like suspension. But as we start fitting everything to this chassis and screwing and bolting everything down, we'll find out exactly how well everything fits, and I will give you a full and honest review of this Shielder chassis and this bulkhead. But so far, looking pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is see if we can fit this rear tub to that chassis. Because when I fixed it a few videos back and I put that new side on and those rear end cappings, it now measures quite a bit shorter here than it does here. Now one of the reasons could be that the roof and sides aren't on to pull it in, but when I did have the roof and sides on, this rear tailgate, or the new tailgate that I've got for it, there were quite substantial gaps either side, around about 15 to 20 mil each side, which is far too big. So I think, let's get this on the new chassis, let's get all those bolt holes lined up, plumb it in, and then we'll see if it needs any fettling. Right guys, and the tub is on. Look at that, nice. So I've just been spending a little bit of time and I've gone around and just put in some temporary nuts and bolts in various different places just to see how the holes are lining up on the front, and then also around at the back. I've got some fixings here along these rear tabs for the rear cross member, and so far so good. It's all lined up really nicely with this cross brace and all these holes line up. However, there are one or two little things that I've had to scratch my head around and try and work out, because it isn't all plain sailing. But I don't think this is a problem with the chassis or anything else. I think this is just a mix and match of parts, putting it together, and obviously a lot of fettling that I've done to the rear tub. So it's taken me a little bit of a while to work out what the issues are, but I'll talk you through them. So first things first, down here, we've got the rear of the tub resting on this bit here, which is really nice. And then we've got the front of the tub resting on that new bracket that I put in from YRM, really nicely. However, there's quite a gap here between this bracket that I put on. Again, this was an aftermarket bracket from eBay that I bolted on. There's quite a gap there, like a good finger's width there. And then over here, there's like half a finger width gap between there and there as well. So the tub doesn't sit flush between that and that on the chassis. However, when I did look at that before I put the tub on, I measured with the spirit level between there, and there was actually a difference. So that's quite a bit higher, maybe about 10 mil higher than the back of there. And also, these aren't level with that. So basically, you can either have this bit level with these bits, or you can have that bit level with this bit, but it means you've got a height difference between these two. So that's had me scratching my head for a little while, so I thought I'll come back out and I'll have a look at the old chassis and I'll get a spirit level on and I'll see how it should look. So here we've got the spirit level on that bit there, which is the new bracket I've put on. It's resting nicely on there and on here and down here. There's a huge gap between the rear cross member, and I think that's because it did have a new cross member welded on at some point, so they put that on the piss down there, so that doesn't even line up anywhere. So potentially this rear tub is all bent to shit and bent and warped, especially these bars anyway, so I'm not really expecting anything in that tub to line up perfectly, so it is going to need a little bit of fettling. But just coming back down here, if we put this spirit level on there and on there, this is slightly proud anyway. Now I know you are supposed to have a couple of rubbers on there and on there. It is always best to put a rubber on just in case, so I will put a couple of rubber pads on these things anyway. But I think all in all, it's not that much different. I have taken all the measurements from like the top of there to there and from there to there on this chassis and the new chassis. And in all honesty, guys, everything on the Shielder chassis is exactly the same as that chassis in terms of specs and measurements. So I can't quite work out what the difference is, other than that tub might not have sat on there properly anyway to start with. I just never noticed. But then also maybe I just need to put some thicker rubbers under these brackets here. So I've got these two rubbers here. These are rubber pads that I got off eBay that are supposed to go on there like that. And as you can see, there's still a difference, but if I just double them up and put 2 in, that'll fill that gap nicely. And then when that's kind of riveted down, that'll seal there. But I think all of these cross support things are all kind of bent in anyway as well. So at the end of the day, guys, this is very much a hand-built build, just like it was from the factory, but with a little bit extra hand building from me. And I know what some of you might be thinking, they should all be lying flat and flush, because if it's not, then this tub's going to be on an angle, so your doors and stuff aren't going to line up. Well, I have put a spirit level on here, and I've also put a spirit level on the chassis, like that, and they're both fairly close. And one of the reasons it's slightly off is because these little chocks of wood I've got here, this one is slightly thicker than that one. So that made me fairly more confident that actually having a few extra rubber packers under there is probably okay. But just to make doubly sure, I also measured from here to the bulkhead there, and that is 87.5 mil, give or take. Now I know that isn't bolted in and there's a bit of wobble, but as it's lying, that's 87.5 mil from there to there. And then if we come down here and measure at the bottom, that is 87.5 mil. So actually that lines up really squarely. So if it was on a cuddy wifter slant, that bottom bit would be smaller than the top bit in theory. And so because the bolts at the front are lining up and the bolts at the back are lining up and the level of the tub and the chassis are fairly consistent, and also the distance between the rear tub and the bulkhead are fairly consistent, there's only one more test we can do to make sure it is lined up nice. And that is to test fit a door. Oh, come on, Betty. So the real acid test to see, is this tub on a cuddy wifter due to those extra little spacages between there and the way the rear of the tub is resting on there, and that new YRM bracket, is to see if this door lines up being propped with a few chocks of wood. So if we just crudely look at the door gaps, hello, subscribe. This looks really nice down here. So that is pretty evenly level. There is a dint in the door there, but we'll sort that out. But that is a nice gap all the way down there. And then if we come up to this side, again, obviously when we do put the roof and stuff on, this might move forward or back a tiny bit, but actually this gap here looks pretty damn nice all the way down there. So that's probably nicer than the gaps on the original chassis and the original bulkhead, because that was all rusted and all over the place, properly on the wonk. So I am pretty pleased with that. That tells me that I think there's no need to stress and worry about those gaps there. Let's just chuck in a couple of extra packers there to make sure that they're buttoned up nicely, and then what we'll do is we'll just either rivet all the way through them or maybe put a bolt through them just to keep it nice and secure. And the same with that one, and then the same with these ones at the back. Very happy. Nice one, Shielder. So the other issue I've got, the other thing that is going to need a little bit of fettling, and again, this is more down to my work on the rear tub, which I did when it was kind of propped on that chassis. So I think the markers and potentially these panels, aftermarket ones, haven't been the best. So let me show the issue I've got. So this bar here was a new one, again off eBay. All the holes in this bar line up perfectly with the holes on the Shielder chassis all the way here on both sides. The rear quarter panels, however, this one's on and it's lined up with the holes, and it's lined up with the holes in the panel, but there's quite a gap there, a finger gap. Now, a lot of the Defenders I've seen, this is pretty tight to there. It's a lot closer, you can't get a finger in. So that is an issue, there is a gap there. And then if we come to the other side, there's an even bigger gap here. I can properly get a finger through. But these holes line up again with this quarter panel and this bar. So I need to basically move this in slightly on both sides. And the main reason for this is because this rear tailgate that I bought doesn't fit very nicely at all. So if I just prop that on there, you can see we've got a huge gap there and a huge gap there, and then it gets wider as it goes to the top. Now I think the reason it's wider at the top is because the sides and roof aren't on, so when they are on, it will pull those sides in a little bit and hopefully square that out. But the gap here and the gap there is massive. In fact, it's at the point where the door almost kind of goes through the gap. So there's a good 10 to 15 mil gap on each side that needs to bring in, and I think that's relevant because you can see it down here. So if that was in and that was closer in, then actually the gap here, either side of that tailgate, would be a lot closer and look much better. This side does have a little bit of play within these screw holes, so if I bang that over, it has come in considerably. This side, however, is a different story. This side, that's as far as that'll go in, and it's still a considerable gap. It also sticks out a bit more here as well, so that isn't really flush there. And I think the reason for that, guys, is when I did this tub side, I took this whole side off in that quarter panel, and I basically redid it on that old chassis, but I redid it on the bulkhead where I'd cut these off on both sides, so I didn't really have the best reference points. So I think what's probably happened is this quarter panel needed to go ever so slightly that way, maybe a tiny bit up, and the quarter panels would align a little bit better. So I don't think there's a great deal I can do about that other than just hide it with some of those little side step protector things, or a big rear side steppy up, barry, thingy-majiggy, you know what I mean. But anyway, what I want to concentrate my efforts on now is getting this gap closer in. And I think the only way to do that is to take those screws out and then basically bash that over, because it was these holes that were restricting it moving in, and then possibly drill some new holes through this rear panel so that moved in closer, and then we can align that again to this bar. However, what that will mean is the measurement between this bit here and the end of that quarter panel end capping bit is 60 mil here, and at this side it's 65 mil. But we might just have to live with that. It is a hand-built vehicle at the end of the day. Now, before I do any more alignment and fettling with that back end and that rear door, I think we're going to do it with the sides and the roof on, so we know everything is perfectly square and not on a cuddywombus or cunnilingus? No, that's something different. Right, so let's get this roof and sides on the easy way. 3, 2, 1, boom! And there we go, guys. The roof and sides are back on, as well as the rear door, looking nice. Now, I have spent ages messing around trying to adjust these gaps on that side and on this side to try and get them as close as possible, and I've decided in the end it's not worth it. I'm just going to go for even symmetrical gaps on both sides, because no one's ever going to notice, and I'm probably just spending hours and hours and hours chasing all the gremlins and demons in this rear tub that are never ever going to get fixed. So with that said, I think I'm going to commit to this gap. But what that does mean is we're now committed to having pretty big gaps either side of this rear tailgate, and also not fully square either. But I still don't think it looks too bad, and I have a cunning plan to fix that. So to just help mask this big gap on this side, I've just put on a little bit of door rubber trim, just some of the leftover stuff I had that I took off previously. I've just trimmed it down and stuck it on this edge here, and actually that's filled that gap up quite nicely. I've not put any on this side because the hinges go here and we want this to be able to close shut, but I think when you step back and look at it, it's not too bad, to be honest. I think I can live with that, guys. So if we do put like one of those rear wheel carrier tailgate things on anywhere, you're not going to see half of that. So I think that will do the job nicely. So what we need to do now is just fix in and send home both of these rear hinges. So let's do that now, and let's do that really quickly. 3, 2, 1, boom! And there we go, guys. Another beautiful swinging door. Yeah, baby. Look at that! A brand new tailgate. Absolutely buzzing. And to be honest, just putting that bit of rubber trim there has absolutely done the job. That opens up lovely, closes nice, butts up to there, and we will get a proper lock to latch that in place. But that visually, in my opinion anyway, does the job nicely. And then obviously we've got our cool rear door, our back door that we refurbished a few videos back. So, all in all, that is looking pretty nice. But we are far from finished with this rear tub before it's ready to be officially mated to this brand new shielded chassis. We have quite a few ugly bits going on all around here. In fact, you can see here, guys, we've got holes there, and if you look down here, we've got holes here. Most of this is not looking particularly nice at all. So let's get all of this dismantled, let's get that rear tub back out the front and see if we can do something about that. Right, guys, the weather has turned, it's raining again, and I haven't got any friends to help me get this roof off there. So we're going to keep this party inside, and I'm going to do the best I can to get everything done on that tub to make it look nice. So let's cut to a little montage. Right, guys, so now we've got a little bit of space. Let me tell you the plan. So as you can see down here, this is completely corroded through. There's been that reaction between the aluminium and the steel, and it's completely ate through this aluminium piece here. So I do have a new one or a new brace piece from YRM. It's not a full replacement piece. It will literally go behind there and sandwich on, so we'll do that when we get the tub up. But this top bit also has seen better days. Again, it's kind of corroded through there on the aluminium. It's very flimsy. It's been cut back here and bent back. So I think the previous owner had done that so he could slide the seat further back. So we might still keep that off, but this all needs a bit of attention. So to address this, I've got some 1.5 mil or 2 mil possibly aluminium strips that I've had cut to size. So I'm basically going to put one of these over the top of there and one underneath to sandwich it, and then we'll panel bond it in and rivet it down, and that will just basically sandwich that and make sure that's nice and strong. And then when we can get the tub off, when I get my wife to give me a hand very shortly, we'll get this new YRM piece sandwiched on the back of there again, we'll panel bond it in, and we'll put some bolts in. And I have got some spare bits of this as well, so I might even put some over this side as well, so it's really secure, solid, and structurally sound. So, let's crack on. Yeah, buddy! So the first thing we do is just remove both of the seat belts. Then we can remove that tub bracket, and you can see here just how bad that corrosion gets when the steel and the aluminium react together. So just putting that bracket on the refurb pile, we can give everything a quick hoover and then take off this rear tub support bracket and then chuck that on the refurb pile. And with a quick check outside, it's still raining, so this party is definitely staying inside today. Next, we can turn our attentions over to this bit of metal, just lifting it up slightly before cutting it off with a grinder to reveal some hidden secrets. Woo! Ooh, 5 pence. Nice! So with 35 years of gunk and grime hoovered up, we can give that edge a quick file off and then test fit the new piece. It just needs a little trim, so we break out the jigsaw and waz that bit off. Then we can drill out all the bolt holes with a Christmas tree drill bit and just check they align nicely. Then finally we can get to work with the grinder and start cleaning up that tub. So with a combination of the multi-tool, some hand sanding, a hell of a lot of elbow grease and a wire brush, we can get to work cleaning the tub, getting rid of all of that flaky paint that was obviously put on with a rattle can, going around the edges, hoovering, cleaning, and then degreasing everything with brake cleaner. With that all done, we can just hit this end bit with a bit of etch primer. Again, this is going to be covered with that new piece, so it doesn't matter too much. Now with the tub all clean, we can just mask off these sides and put some seam sealer along the edge. This will hopefully stop any water coming underneath these panels as part of our 90 cab conversion. And taking the masking tape off, that is job done. Now with a little bit of help from the wife, aka the foreman, I managed to flip the tub over and get to work doing the exact same process on the other side. First we get the multi-tool and remove the old fuel filler neck. And with that rusty cruddy thing off, it's now looking very nice. Then once again we attack the tub with a wire brush, the multi-tool and a hoover. Before finally giving it a good scrub with some brake cleaner and some wire wool. Oh guys, that was hard work, but the tub is now fully prepped and ready to put these replacement panels in. Let me show you them. Here we go, these are the replacement panels. These are 3 that I made earlier out of some 1.5 or 2 mil aluminium, I can't remember how thick it is. And then this is the YRM reinforcement plate that goes behind here. So I bought that to basically sort out this gaping hole that we've got here. So to put that in, we'll need to just drill out these little brackets, put the plate in, and then put these back on. And then these other ones that I've knocked up here are basically going to go one at the other side of there, which I've shaped the same as that YRM bracket. And then these 2 here are going to go on there and underneath, and that'll basically sandwich between this horrible bit here all the way along both sides. So that should give it a nice bit of extra support. And then what I've also got is a few extra little brackets that I've cut. So these things here, I'm going to put on either side of the tub there to basically bridge those holes on either side there. and then the same on that far corner. And then all of these little ones I've basically cut them to go around and just stick over all the holes that have been drilled in the tub previously. And then we'll cover all that with some paint. So there's a lot to be getting on with, so let's cut to another little montage. So the first thing to do is drill out the rivets and the spot welds holding these little corner bracket supports in place. Oh, I wish I was shorter. Said no one ever. And with those brackets finally off, once again we find more mud and muck hidden in all of these crevices and cavities. No wonder these things rust out. Woo! So just giving it a quick hoover and clean, we can then get the new YRM support plate and position that in place to see how it's looking. It does need a slight trim. So we get the angle grinder out and just trim off these floor supports, and it slots into place nicely. And you can see here how that support plate bridges the gap and reinstates those holes that had previously corroded through. Next we can get those other custom made plates and test fit those. This piece goes on the other side and then sandwiches that original piece of metal together between the YRM bracket and this new piece, and we can then bolt the tub in securely. Then the final two pieces just sit either side of this to sandwich this in once again, bridging any corroded through holes and giving the tub overall more structural support. And to fix all these new panels in place, I'm using panel bond and some rivets. If it's good enough for Porsche, it's good enough for me. Then giving it a quick clean to get rid of any excess panel bond, we can then fit these corner brackets the easy way. Nice! Then finally, all that's left to do is fill in all the holes in the tub with these off-cut pieces of aluminium and some panel bond. And that is job done. Right guys, that is all the work done on the tub now. The support pieces are in and they're looking nice. That's going to add a nice bit of structural rigidity to that tub. Very pleased. We've also just filled in the holes with all the little offcuts and also added some brackets on both sides of the tub there. Again, just to cover up those nasty little holes where it corroded through. The tub is now ready for paint, but the garage is not. It's an absolute mess and we still need to transform this into a spray booth. So let's do this the easy way. 3, 2, 1, boom! And there we go guys, a pop-up spray booth. Let me show you. Check this bad boy out. It hasn't got a roof, so we might get a little bit of paint fluttering over the top and onto various different things, but all in all, not too bad. The tub is all prepped and ready to hit, as usual, with some Raptor 2K primer and some Raptor top coat bed liner. So, let's crack on. And there we go, a fully refurbished rear tub worthy of this brand new shielded chassis. Let me walk you around this bad boy. So as you can see, it's been fully lined now with that Raptor bed lining and it looks nice. We've installed the floors and we've riveted them down. We've also just put on this trim here, which we will rivet down at some point in the future. And then you can see here, we've got our nice new door seal, that compression strip there. And what I've done guys, is I've just basically left a little gap here so any water that lands in this rear tub can roll down here and then fall between that gap. And these little bits here, the tub supports, all three of them, basically either side of here, about there and about there, I've just filled that up with silicone. So there's like a little valley here, so any water that goes down there and into there can't go past there and it can't go past there. And there's a hole drilled in each of these, so so any water that does go in there will just drain straight down to the floor. Professional! But I am over the moon with the way this has turned out. It looks fantastic. To be honest, most of this here, the inside of the cab, is probably going to get carpeted and covered with stuff anyway, so you'll probably never see it. But at least I know, and you know, that it's done to a nice standard. And again, these side bits here will be covered with that checker plate that we did in the previous video, but at least we know everything underneath is looking nice. And these new panels that we put in for our 90 cab conversion, we've just seam sealed all the way along and round here, and now it's coated with that Raptor bed lining. It blends in really nicely. I am really pleased with that, guys. And obviously the underneath of the tub has had exactly the same treatment. We've thoroughly cleaned it, we've rectified all those corroded through holes and fitted new panels, and then we've given everything a nice coat with that Raptor bed lining, and it is looking nice. It is completely worthy now of being mated to this brand new Shielder chassis. And if I bring you around the front, we've also gone ahead and sprayed the rear bulkhead and the seat box with that Raptor bed lining. Obviously this rear bulkhead was a little bit bent and battered, so it wasn't really worth painting properly, but I think the Raptor bed lining has just kind of blended it in and merged it in nicely. And again, the seat box has come out really well. I'm really pleased with that. I might still cover this in carpet anyway, so it might not be seen, but for now, I think it finishes off really nicely. And I've also painted the inside bits of the tub here, so that is kind of all one finish now. So this has taken a lot of work, but I'm sure you guys will agree, it was definitely worth it. Now I just want to say a massive thank you to Shielder and my main man Tony for driving all the way from Northern Ireland to Indad's garage to drop off my new chassis and new bulkhead. And those legends at Shielder have also offered you guys a 5% off discount code. So if you need a new bulkhead or chassis for your Defender restoration, then if you use the link in the description and the discount code DadsGarage5, you can get 5% off a brand new bulkhead or chassis. So that'll give you a little bit extra money in the back pocket for shiny things like suspension. And over here, I have all the suspension ready and primed to basically fit these new refurbished axles to that bad boy. But that is going to be in a video coming soon. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along on this journey, because in the next video, we're going to be painting the bulkhead and the chassis. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.